What is going on, my Game Maker enthusiasts? It's Zach here with part 2 of our Game Maker Studio 2 boss battles. In this video, what we're going to be doing is creating the spikes and then also the other moveset that our boss is going to be doing, which is smashing down onto the player. So I'm going to go ahead and run the game right now, and this is what we got done in the last video. So we basically have an intro for the boss, alright, and then he just kind of floats there. So the first thing we want the boss to do when he comes down is we want him to, oh, looks like my controller got disconnected. First thing we want to do is we want to have the boss shoot out its spikes. Alright, so let's go ahead and do that. How would we go about doing something like that? So the first thing we're going to do is create a couple variables. We're basically going to control every time a spike gets moved from the boss in alarm 0. Okay? So let's go ahead and create these variables. So I'm going to call it spikes variables. And here what we're going to do is first off we're going to create a timer. So spike timer equals, we'll say rune speed divided by 2. And basically this is now how fast you're going to be throwing out the spikes. So this is going to be every half second the boss is going to be throwing out spikes. Alright. Now we want a speed for the spikes. So spike speed, we'll say 20. And then we're going to want an angle target. Okay? Now basically what the angle target is, it's going to move our boss visually from point A to point B in angles. So I'll show you what exactly I'm talking about once I create it. So we'll say the angle target equals 90 because our image angle equals 90. So we want it to start off at that target. So to do this, what I'm going to do is in the step event, we're going to go ahead and set that up. So moving angle of boss. So here we're going to use a very simple tweening algorithm. I have an entire video series about this tweening algorithm and juicy effects that you can add into your game. I'll actually put a link right here on the screen, so it'll open up in a new tab and you can watch that as well. It's a whole playlist, but that goes more into detail about what this algorithm does. But right now I'm just going to go ahead and write it out. So image underscore angle plus equals, in parentheses, our angle target minus our image underscore angle multiplied by 0.1. Alright, awesome. So if we go ahead and just test this out, and let's say our angle target we want to be 270, and we run the game, what it's going to do is it's going to come down and then it's going to actually switch our positioning. So as you can see now he just flies upside down. It doesn't snap there right away, it actually moves it, and it looks really smooth and really cool. So I'm going to change that back to 90. And that's what we're basically going to be using for when we rotate the boss. Alright, so the next thing we're going to do is actually just set up our alarm 0. So alarm 0 equals our spike timer. So once it turns into the actual boss, it's going to take a half second, then it's going to hit up alarm 0. So let's go ahead and create that event, alarm 0. And here is where we're going to start creating our spikes. Okay, so since our move equals 0, anytime our move is equal to 0, and I'll go ahead and comment this, we're going to say 0 equals throwing spikes. Alright, 1 is going to equal moving up out of the screen. 2 is going to equal smashing down. And I'm sure we'll have some other ones in there as well. Okay, so this is basically, this move variable is basically telling us, hey, what is the boss doing? Now you can set up macros for this if you'd like to make it a little bit easier for yourself. I'm just going to use the integers for now. I find that it's easily understood just with the integers. So here I'm going to say creating spikes. And this is basically all alarm 0 does is create the spikes. So I'm going to say if our move equals 0, so we're verifying, hey, are we on the correct move set to actually throw these spikes? Then all we have to do is go down a simple list. Alright, so what we do is we check, hey, is the angle target equal to this? If it is, let's set the angle target to something else and let's shoot out the spikes. Alright, so I'm going to say if angle target equals 90, because that's what we start out at. I'm going to set our angle target to equal 45. Now I'm getting these values here based off of the chart that I'm showing on the screen right now. And you can go ahead and just Google this chart. Just type in Game Maker Studio 2 directions chart. and that will really help out with everything you want to do direction wise. So I'm going to put this into a really cool for loop at the end, but right now I just want to type it out so you can actually visually see what we're doing. So afterwards we could say else if angle target equals 45, then we want to set the angle target to 0. So angle target equals 0. And now we can pretty much just copy this and paste it. So we'll say, hey, if it's 0, then we want it to be negative 45. We're always bringing it down 45 degrees. All right, so we'll say, do this again. Hey, if it equals negative 45, then we want to set it to negative 90. All right, and let's go again. So hey, does it equal negative 90? If so, then we're going to do negative 135. All right, if it equals negative 135, then we want to set it to negative 180. And hey, does it equal negative 180? If so, then we want to set it to negative 225. Does it equal negative 225? Then we want to set it to negative 270. And if it equals 270, that's going to be the last of it. So then we want to set angle target to 90. Okay, because this is basically going around in a complete circle. All right, and we'll set the image angle as well. So we'll snap back to 90. And down below, we can just always set alarm 0 to equal spike timer. So this code right here is every half second, it's just going to turn it. So let's go ahead and try it out. You can see we have the boss. So now it's just turning in a perpetual circle, which is exactly what we want. So we can clean up this code a little bit and make it easier and more efficient. I'll show you how to do that right now. All right, so a much easier way of doing this is let's go ahead and delete this code. In here, we're going to set up a temporary variable, and we're just going to call it I, and it's going to equal angle target. Okay? Now what we can say is if I is greater than or equal to negative 225, then what we want to do is we want to set I to minus equal 45 degrees, and then we would just want to simply set our angle target to I. All right, so let's go ahead and run the game. So as you can see, it does the exact same thing. So basically what this code is doing is it's bringing our angle minus 45 degrees every time we go. So now when we say else if I is greater than or equal to negative 270, because that's going to be the last bit, then we can just set our image angle to equal 90 and our angle target to equal 90. Whoops. So now if we run the game again, we get exactly what we had before. So now it's just going to go in a perpetual circle again. So a lot cleaner, a lot easier. Whatever you prefer. If you want to do the long method, it makes more sense to you, you can obviously do that, or you can do this. All right, so let's go ahead and create the spikes now. So what I'm going to do is I'm going to create a new script, and I'm going to call it create spikes. And here what we're going to want is a variable direction that's going to equal argument 0. And we're going to want a speed. And that's going to equal argument 1. Okay? So if we say if dir equals 0, that's going to be our horizontal movement. And if we say if dir equals 1, that's going to be like our vertical diagonal movement. Okay? So if we are using horizontal, if our dir equals 0, then we just want to create 4 different spikes that are going at a certain direction. So I'm going to say S for spike equals instance create depth, and this is going to be X, Y, and here what we're going to do is say plus sprite height divided by 2. And basically all that does is it brings it to the bottom of our object. So we want one to start at the bottom, the left, the right, and the top. And this is going to create our O spike boss. And let's go ahead and create that real quick. So we'll do that. O spike boss. Perfect. All right, now the reason we said s equals is because now we can use a dot parameter to actually get inside of what this object is going to do. So we want to set s dot direction to equal 270 because it's going down, and s dot speed to equal speed. So I'm going to copy this, I'm going to paste it 3 more times. So this is going to be our bottom spike. This is going to be our left spike. This is going to be our top spike. This is going to be our right spike. Okay, so for the left spike, let's go ahead and get rid of that. We're going to say x minus sprite width divided by 2. Now remember, we're dividing it by 2 because in our actual sprites here, if we go to the boss, we have centered the origin. So we're taking the entire width and we're dividing it by 2, minusing, so it'll go up right here. All right, then we want to set the direction to 180. Now our top spike, all we have to do is say minus and set our direction to 90. And then here for our right spike, we'd actually just copy this, put it into our x, and say instead of minus, we say plus, and get rid of that. So we just put y there. And then we put our direction to 0. So that's it for horizontal. So I'm actually just going to copy this, paste it for our vertical diagonal movement. And here we do the exact same thing, except now we're going to say, okay, we want to add to the x and the y at the same time. Okay? So here this is going to be y plus. We'll copy that, and we'll say sprite width as well. And the direction here is going to be 315. And again, I'm getting this off of the chart. Okay, then we want to copy this, paste it here. Whoops. So this is going to be our y, our x minus sprite width divided by 2, and our y plus sprite height divided by 2. And that's going to be direction 225. Then let's copy this again. So that's going to be x minus sprite width and y minus sprite height. That direction is going to be 135. Then we have one more here. I'm going to copy this, paste it. So we're basically just covering all of our angles here. And the direction for this is going to be 45. All right, very basic. So let's go into our OBoss. And now we just want to call this script. All right, and what we're going to do here is basically say, we're going to create one more variable actually. We're just going to call it spike dir equals 0. And in our alarm 0, we want to set angle target to equal I, and we're going to say if, actually let's create the spikes real quick. So let's call the script create spikes, our spike dir, and our spike speed. Okay, so it starts off at 0. So now we're going to say if spike dir equals 0, spike dir equals 1, else if spike dir equals 1, spike dir equals 0. So that just switches it back and forth. So let's run the game. Okay, it works, but it's in the wrong direction. So we should actually start this off as 1. So let's try it again. And you can see the spikes aren't lined up yet either. So there we go. Now in our O spike boss, in the create event, or actually let's just do it in the step event. We can quickly say image angle equals our direction and run it. So there we go. And I don't think this is actually centered, so let's center it. Middle center, and then that should look better. Thought it looked a little bit off there. Remember, if you're ever having something that looks a little bit off with your graphics, make sure to see if where your origin is for that actual sprite. So now we got the spikes flying down. Let's make in our oSpike boss a quick collision method. Collision with our environment block, and we're just going to destroy it. So instance underscore destroy. And there we go. So now what happens after the spikes are dropped? Then what we want to do is we want to actually change our move from 0 to 1. So in here we can say move equals 1. So now if move equals 0, it does our alarm. If it doesn't equal 0, because we're changing it to 1 now, it's going to stop this alarm. If you had this outside of the brackets, right here, you would perpetually get spikes flying out. So make sure it's inside this move bracket. So now let's go into the step event. And here we can start doing our movement code. So we could say if move equals 1, then we want to do a set of actions, else, then we want to do another set of actions. So basically these actions, I'm going to go into the create event again, and now let's go ahead and create a new set of variables for our moving variables. And this is just going to regulate, so basically when the boss loses health points, then what's going to happen is he's going to start moving faster, and he's going to start dropping faster, all sorts of stuff. So we want to create variables that we can change to do that. So we can say up speed equals, I don't know, 20. We could say down speed equals 2. And our wait time equals 1.5. So basically the wait time is going to be when he smashes on the ground, how long does he wait? He's going to wait 1.5 seconds. Alright, so in our else, what we can say is, hey, if our v speed does not equal our negative up speed, then we want to set our v speed to equal negative up speed. The reason we're saying, hey, if our v speed does not equal this, it's because we only want to set it that our v speed once. We don't want to constantly be setting it. Technically, if we commented this, it would still work the same, but let's just go ahead and make sure that we have it just sets one time. And this actually, I just realized, is not in the correct place. Let's go ahead. I'm just going to cut that, and what we want to say is if y is less than or equal to negative 128, and I'll explain this in a second. We're going to do this, else we're going to do that. So basically what we want to say here is, okay, when our move equals 1, is our y at the top of the screen? Because we want him to move up. If he's not at the top of the screen, we want the v speed to equal our negative up speed. Okay, remember, v speed wise, negative is always going up, positive is always going down. So when that happens, if our y is less than or equal to negative 128, we can set our v speed equal 0. Alright, so if we run the game, what he should do is throw out his spikes and then go right back up to the screen where he came from. There he goes. So now what he's going to do is he's going to select one of 4 positions to drop down on. So I'm going to create one more variable here. It's just going to be called, I don't know, place. It's going to equal -1. And then this place variable is basically going to select, hey, where is he going to come down at? So we'll say place equals choose, and this can be between 0 and 4. So we could say 0, 1, 2, 3, 4. Actually, you know what? It's only 3 because we only have one of 4 positions he's going to be selecting. We only this was made for a 2-player game, so it would select either player 1 or player 2. We only have 1 player in this game, so we're only going to select one of 4 positions, not one of 5. Alright, so we could say if place equals 0, then all we want to do is we want to set its x and y position towards that place. So x equals 190 and y equals -128. so we could just drop it down. Now, how I got these coordinates, these are already preset coordinates. I went ahead and just took our boss here, and I just put them right above where we want to go. And then in the bottom left here, you can see the coordinate system for the room, and that's where I got it. So you can see it's gonna drop right here. I got 190 out of it, okay? So that's just how I got those numbers here that we're putting in. We'll copy it, else if place equals 1, we want to set our x to 770, else if place equals 2, we want to set our x to 1344, and then else if our place equals 3, then we want to set our x towards the player positioning. So we only want to do this if our player exists in the room. So we want to say if instance exists, O player. We want to set our x to O player.x. Else, if he doesn't exist, then we'll just set it to 190. All right, so then once we select where we want to push down at, we can set alarm 1 to equal whatever sort of wait time we want. So basically, if you want the boss to wait until he drops down, you can control it right here. So I'm going to set it to 15. And in alarm 1, I'm just going to set move to equal 2. All right, so here we're moving up, and 2 we're smashing down. So here's where we can say else if move equals 2, then we can start bringing down the v speed. So I say v speed plus equals our down speed variable. Okay, so now in our move 3, what we can say is if y is greater than or equal to room height divided by 2, which means he's halfway down the screen. We're only going to be checking this if he's halfway down the screen. Then what we would want to say is if y is greater than or equal to room height minus 192, our v speed equals 0, and our y equals room height minus 128. This is basically going to lock the boss positioning right above the ground. What happens is if we create a collision method with the ground, it has a delayed response. So we're not going to be perfectly right above the ground. The boss is going to look like it's inside the ground a little bit, which we don't want. So let's run the game. And where's he at? Should be smashing down here. Doesn't look like he is for some reason. Let's go ahead and take a look at the code. Okay, so I see what's going on here. So basically what's happening is that if our y is less than or equal to negative 128, it's setting this alarm 1 to equal 15. But basically what's happening here is that this alarm is constantly getting called. So it's not actually reaching that 15. So if we go ahead and just say less than negative 128, and then we set y to equal negative 128, which means that it's not less than, then it'll only run through this once. Let's put this at the top. Let's run the game again. It's still not coming down. Of course it's not. Let's try setting move to equal 1.5. There we go. So it smashes down. You can still see it's bobbing there. In our bobbing here, we want to set, oh, we actually do have this already. If v speed equals 0, then we don't want it to bob. We'll say if v speed equals 0, and move does not equal 2. Let's try that. There we go, so it smashes down. So now what we want to do is we want to have it come back up. So then all I believe we have to do is say move equals 1. Which is going to bring us back up. So as you can see, there's actually no wait time there. It's just kind of ricocheting. We actually want the boss to stop there for a second. So instead of saying move equals 1, what we could say is alarm 2 equals room underscore speed multiply our wait time variable that we created. And in alarm 2, then we can set our move to equal 1. So let's try that. So he does the spikes, comes down, waits, and actually what we need to do here, sorry about that, so we want to set move to equal 3 in the meantime. Because again, if our alarm equals 2 and it's actually equal to this, then it's going to be constantly running that alarm. It's never going to get to the end of it. So here we go, he's coming down, he's throwing the spikes around, then he drops down again. We're getting that bobbing. That's because we're setting move to equal 4, so we could say and move does not equal 2 and move does not equal 4. Or what was that, 3? Yeah, we set it to 3. Drops down, goes back up, drops down again, and again, and again. And now you've got a little bit of a boss battle going on here. So in the next episode, what we're going to do is have it either go up or to a random point in the room. And then once we do that, then we can polish it up by doing some particle effects. And then if you guys want, since this is a sort of a complex system and it is my own system, so it's a little bit harder to understand, getting a little bit of a gap bug there too that we'll fix. Then what I'll do is I'll make another video going through all of the code again, probably the same length of this video, and really getting down everything there is to do. It's a little bit hard because there's such longer videos, and I can't go through detail as much as I'd like to. So if you guys want something like that at the end of this series, I'll definitely make a video for you. So anyways, if you like this video and you got some help from it, go leave a like, go ahead and subscribe. Go ahead and check out my Twitter, twitter.com/realtouchgml, and I'll see you guys in the next tutorial. Peace.